Alright guys, what we have here is the window trim for the driver's side. It's going to be the same part numbers for both sides, so you multiply what you see here by 2. So 2 of the large tracks, 4 of the side run trims, and then 4 of the lower felt runs. And I'm going to show you how to install all of this on your FJ40 today. Now I already did the passenger side door, so I could figure out how to best do this on video, nice and clean, and we're gonna go ahead and do the driver's side. But first, let me just show you the difference between the two. So on this door, we're going to have excessive movement left and right with the glass. And if you're driving with the window down about this height on the road, it will move far enough to actually make a knocking noise on the stainless on both sides. So that's what's prompting me to do the replacement on mine. So right here, I'll show you the movement with a new trim installed. We're actually moving the door more than the glass itself. So that is a plus in my book. And all of this is nice and beautiful and brand new. Be sure you order the part number that I link in the description below if yours has this stainless trim, because there is another one for the later models that is all black without this stainless. So if you want it to match just like this, follow my part numbers that I'll list in the bottom of the video. Let's go ahead and get this thing taken apart. So first things first, you'll need a Phillips to take this bolt out right here, and then we're going to go ahead and pop this cap off, and then we'll undo these 2 Phillips. The hardest part will be getting the clip off that retains this thing onto the window crank itself, but I'll show you how to do that. Now this does have an aftermarket door kit that was put on after the fact. Yours may not have any speakers here, which will actually make your life easier, but if you do have some door speakers, go ahead and get them off as well, because this whole piece is going to come right out. Okay, we have the door stripped down, and we're going to go ahead and just get the handle and plop it back on so we can roll the window down just until you see the 10 mils. So there's one right here and there's one right here, and those we're going to take the bolts out completely, and we'll drop the glass, let the glass sit all the way at the bottom. I didn't take the glass out when I did this on the other side, and it made the job way easier. And also, pro tip, use the box that that large window track comes in to peel off the vapor barrier and let it sit there. It is messy stuff. You could throw that box away when you're done, but this stuff is very tar-like, and it's just a pain to clean. So do yourself a favor, grab a bottle of Goo Gone before you do this job, and get some blue shop towels. Right here, I was just cleaning up the mess that I made, but once I get everything put back together, it'll get dirty again, and we'll go ahead and just clean it up so everything's gone just like before. All right, now what I'm gonna do next is take off these bolts like I mentioned earlier to drop the glass all the way down, and then I will take off this bolt right here because it's holding the window track that is the guide for those black pieces of felt when the glass gets rolled down. And there's also another black piece of felt that goes into a channel, but that channel is part of the door. So we're gonna have to pick that out later. But once I get the glass down and I get that track out, we're going to go ahead and start popping off the trim. And that's going to be pretty simple. You're just going to get a flathead screwdriver, pop these things out because they're held in with little clips, and we'll start pulling the window track down and getting that thing out of the frame itself. So I'll do it in a time lapse, and then I'll go over the process again when we're done. All right, we've got one door that is bare and ready to go, and just a reminder, we do have the glass inside. So when you take those two 10 millimeters off, you just push the glass a little bit off the track and just hold it and guide it all the way down and just let it rest there. Okay, so this is the pile of parts that we ended up with. Now this is a channel that goes up on the door and it slides up into a pocket, and then that's where that 10 millimeter bolt holds it down. When you put this back together, make sure that it actually grabs onto, you see these little teeth? It slides up into that piece that you removed it from. So when you take the bolt off the bottom, you kind of have to like pull it down and then it'll come out. And as you can see, this felt is actually supposed to be way up top, and it came out like this. So it was already down at the bottom of the window, and so all of this was unsupported completely. So it's pretty crazy. This stuff is very, very brittle. I'm going to actually need to get a vacuum when we get the new track put in and clean the bottom of the door out. And that's mainly because this other side right here is going to be the front side. And if you look very closely, there's a little tang right there. So pry that tang, push it in towards the door, and slide this felt out. There's plenty of room for it to come out. Once you get it out, bend that tang up. I didn't slide the new one in. I ended up just squeezing it in, which I'll kind of try to show you on the install, but don't forget to bend that up because then it will slide down just like this one did. And once you got that done, you can go ahead and get a flathead screwdriver and pop this thing off. If you look really closely, these are pins, which you'll see on the new ones as well. So it's not in the door very hard. You just need to get a little screwdriver and just start your first wedge so you can see where it's at. And this is going to be on both sides. So you kind of just pop it out and then go here, pop it out, go here, pop it out. Do the same all the way down. And then once you have that popped out, you can go ahead and just bring it up. So my method of installation is going to be putting this one in first, then the big track, and then this track. And that's because this big track is kind of sandwiched in between both of them, and I don't want to have to bend that little one around the big track. So we're gonna put that one first. It worked well for me on the passenger side. Anyways, you pop these two suckers out, nice and easy, and then you get to the big one, which is kind of intimidating. But since you have this out, there is a ton of room for this to drop down. Now looking in the door, you could probably see about this much right here. So I just grabbed it and I just yanked on that sucker and I pulled it off the top. Then I followed this with my hands and kind of pulled that. But as you can see, it was a little stuck there. Those ridges are there to allow for the bend and to bite into the door frame. So I just grabbed it with both hands and pulled that out. This stuff comes off really easy. This piece right here is hanging under the door frame as well. So yeah, you just pull that thing out and it's really malleable. You can bend it a lot, and I just kind of just wedged it out. Without this inner trim, there's a bunch of room to get it out and not scratch the paint. With all of that being said, let's go ahead and get this stuff opened up out of its packaging and get it installed onto the door frame. So for this part, I'm going to show you in standard time, not time-lapsed. But if you want, you could reference this for the removal. It's pretty much the same. These clips just pop into the door. And then you just go one after the other. I like to put my thumb on the clip and kind of just press it in. Otherwise, it's a little bit of a pain to get it in without it. So I'm going to bend it right here just a bit. You can see it put a lot of that stress here, but it's enough to get it in. And now once they drop into the channels, we can go ahead and bring it back up. Now this is a press fit, and I had to figure out a way how to kind of like hit it in because these bends aren't fully made yet. But honestly, what I found was the easiest was just hitting it with my hand. So I started with the center, and then we'll focus on the sides. And be mindful of the glass popping around inside of there. You don't want to break it. So this is all guided down into the track. This one's good to go. Okay, we've got this last trim to put in, and I'm actually going from the bottom up, and that's because we're wedging this in between this guy, and there's really no way to come from the top down without bending it a lot, and I didn't want to do that. But since we have the glass drop down all the way, we have plenty of room to come up through the bottom. And it's going to be the same as the other side where you just pop it in. Now this one is a little bit harder because we've got all the other trims in, so there's not as much space to get this popped in. But like I said, since we're coming from the bottom up, at least we don't have to worry about bending it. And if it helps, go ahead and get a 90-degree pick just to pull up on these things and guide it into the hole. All right. All right, now that looked way more painful than it is, but just take your time, don't freak out, and you won't bend anything or make it look terrible. So now we're going to work on these felt pieces. There's 2 of them, and I'm going to show you what I did. Instead of trying to slide it in because it just gets all stuck, I just started right here, and it has to be at the very bottom because if you go too high, it won't go into the track up at the top. So start it right here. And again, move down to its very, very, very bottom right here. And then you can squeeze them both in equally. I like to go kind of like at a 90 almost, and it starts dropping in. And if you get it wrong, it won't be even on both sides when it's in the channel, so you can see. But you don't want to mess this part up because if it's not sitting perfectly on the inside, the window will hit a tight spot when you crank it down. Now, alternatively, I have seen some people spray silicone spray on the outside and on the track and try to slide it up. But this just worked out for me, so I'm going to do it on both doors. Okay, so that's nice and flat all the way across. And so this is basically just what I'm going to do on the inside. Now it's way too hard for me to get a video doing that. But again, you need to be at the bottom. So right where that tang bends out, you want to start with that. Too high is going to hit the top of this track on the inside. So keep in mind when you do that. Let's go ahead and get that done right now. Now before we can get to that one right there, we do need to put the window back on the track and crank it all the way up, and that'll also allow us to put that other track on this side back on. So we're going to go ahead and do that right now and just grab it, and just be careful because this thing is rubbing on bolts and metal on the inside, so you don't want to scratch it or break it. So the goal is just to slide it up enough to get your fingers under it. Now you have to pull this track back to let it go past it. And then it's just going to sit right back on that channel. Now this lower track does slide left and right, so you go ahead and move it back, line it up. We'll get these things put on. Now with this, I mean, obviously you want to tighten it, but you don't need to go crazy, so just tighten it enough where you know it won't get loose. And let's go ahead and crank it up. Perfect. So now we have room for the lower track runs right here. Okay, we got that thing done and it was a pain, but let me show you up close. Basically, it goes all the way up and butts up against the bottom of that track. Now what I did was I started at the top and I just squeezed it and did about a 45 all the way down. And make sure you have that tang bent out, because if that track does slide in the future, it will slide all the way out if it doesn't have anything to stop it. So I took this time to add some Dynamat to the inner door skin. A little bit of this stuff goes a long way, and I'll show you a before and after once we're done with this. But basically I'm just putting some Dynamat and a little bit of Dynaliner on top, and this will help keep noise levels down, and it will be behind the door panel so no one's going to see it, and it'll still look like a nice stock FJ40. So right here, this will be a untreated FJ40 door. And this will be a door with just a little bit of sound deadening. I didn't go crazy, I just put a little bit. Huge difference, and you could also tell when you close the door that it just sounds more solid. I mainly did this to get better performance from the speakers. Without all that resonance, the speakers sound better and I don't have to crank it up as much, so that's why I went ahead and just put a little bit on both doors. So next up is installing this window track and putting it on with the 10mm bolt. And just to stress again, make sure that this slides onto that channel up there. You'll see it when you try to put it on. If it's not installed correctly, it won't line up with this other trim going down. All right, you hear that? It's on that channel. You can actually slide it up and down just a bit. So we're gonna go ahead and leave that there. And then we will slide it so that 10mm bolt lines up right here. All right, so now that that's on, you're gonna go ahead and press this track onto that piece. And you're gonna go ahead and test the window. All right, so everything's looking good here. Now all that's left is to get that vapor barrier put back on, get the door panel on, get the speaker if you have one, and wrap it all up. And if I didn't mention before, these things are just press-in clips, so they could come off. That's why I use that little pry bar, plastic pry bar to pop them off, and it's gonna be the same install. Just press it right on. All right, and look at this, man. There's just no way around it, but I'd rather it be on my hands than using the gloves to put this on and making it even messier than it already is. I've got one of those Tubbo towels, and it does pretty good work taking all this stuff off. I was thinking about taking it off the door and just putting like a new butyl rope down, but man, the process to clean all that would have just been so annoying. I just left it, and I didn't feel like dealing with it, but that's probably the messiest part of this whole job. Now, these wipes are pretty much citrus based. You could smell it, and that's the same stuff I use to take it off the door, which I'll show you right now. I use Goo Gone, so probably something citrus based is going to be really handy if you got it at home, just for cleanup when you're done. And if you don't have those vapor barriers on a truck with door panels, make sure you get it on, because it's really important of keeping the moisture controlled into the door. Otherwise it'll start eating up like that material on the door card and just start falling apart, because it's going to be getting full of moisture. So yeah, no paid advertising on that, but man, these things work great. And we'll do a little bit of Goo Gone for cleanup. I might even do one more pass for a final cleanup after. And stuff that you might think is a chip, it's just some of this tar stuff that won't come off. So keep at it, and it'll look the same as when you started. So time for this handle. Try to get it in that same spot it was before, so everything looks like it was untouched. Now this plastic piece right here is going to have a little notch. That notch goes in here and it slides in. So these little tangs right here hold it, so you kind of pop it out and then you're going to pull it back to remove. But right now we're going to kind of put it in and just slide it in and forward to install. And I'm also just going to press this material in with the pick so it doesn't fight me on the way. And I'll clean all this stuff up with a good wipe down after. So think about that little tooth that's going in first. And don't force it on. It will snap in just like that once it's happy. Then all you need is to put the Phillips back. Now I'm just remembering or realizing I didn't mention this on the disassembly, but you do have to get a pick and pull this clip off. So it's going to be in here just like that. Those two teeth hold it onto this shaft right here. So if you see that shaft right here, those two teeth are going to hold it on, and all these splines will let you put the handle on in different ways. So I like to have them facing just about right here when they're rolled up. That way when they're rolled up, I could look at both door panels and they're about the same. But honestly, you could just do it whichever way and it won't matter if you're not too worried about stuff like that. And then lastly, this thing has a little dome in it. The dome goes in and it's really tight, just like this, to fit a clip in. So you have to move it pretty aggressively to get it in. But there's only one way for this clip to go on, and that's from the top down in this orientation. So you're not going to get the clip on in any other way. You're going to have to do it like this. Whichever way you put the handle, just remember it's going to go like that. So let's go ahead and see if we got this thing cranked up. Put that in, get the lever to about where I want it. Probably one more tooth. That is pretty much exactly how I set the other side. So now it's just a matter of squeezing this thing in and hoping it latches. All right, once you hear that pop, you are good to go and it won't come off. Okay, let's go ahead and get the speaker put on and we are done. All right, well, this thing is nice and complete. We've got brand new runs all the way around on both sides. But if you like this video and you want to see more, let me know in the comments below. I'll try to make more FJ40 content. If not, we're going to be making more LC250 content. And I have something huge for the Tacoma. So if you're waiting for that content, stay tuned. We've got a big update coming up on that one.